Hey all, Alex here at your home of the Music Deep Dive, and today it is time for a review of the 2009 book by R. Larry Todd, Fanny Hensel, The Other Mendelssohn. We talked already about R. Larry Todd. This is my second straight review of a book of his. If you've not checked out my review of his Felix Mendelssohn biography, be sure to do that. This biography about Fanny Mendelssohn Hensel, the older sister of Felix, as I talk about in that review a little bit. Very much a figure who, in a lot of ways, was on an equal level with Felix from a musical mind standpoint. Both of them were kind of considered to be prodigious musical talents and developed from a formative standpoint, kind of parallel with each other. But given the social ideas and the realities of the time, it was Felix who ended up getting the opportunities to have his work performed. And Fanny ends up kind of being this background figure who composes quite a bit. And she and Felix have this kind of back and forth of dialogue about each other's compositions, where they're giving each other critiquing and feedback and stuff like that. But her works are not performed. Her works are not published or printed in anything near the same way that Felix's were, both during her lifetime and after, for an extended period of time. It's really only been within the last about 40 to 50 years or so that we have seen this revival of interest in Fanny Hensel, with the popularization of pieces like Das Jahr, this piano cycle based off the different months of the year. And Todd is very, this is continuing a thread that is evident in the Felix Mendelssohn biography, but Todd very much understands what his place in this story is and the importance of telling this story now. We're certainly at a period of time now where Fanny Hensel is very much as popular as she's ever been, as well known as she's ever been, and yet there's still a long ways to go. It is interesting because the framing, at least what Todd's research is showing and how he portrays it here, is that people understood, for the most part, like people who were compositional peers and musical peers of the two, a lot of them understood that Fanny was actually an extremely accomplished composer and took inspiration from some of the more experimental and darker romantic musical figures of the day. And that sort of, again, that knowledge, this idea that everyone understood that here was someone who could go toe-to-toe with almost any composer of that day, and yet we're not going to do a damn thing to make her talent more known because of her sex, because of her gender, it makes the story even more kind of unfortunate and tragic when you read it in that sense. And so in that way, when Todd is talking about kind of the quote unquote revival of interest in Fanny Hensel, it's not so much of a revival as it is us being honest about the influence that a lot of people knew from the get-go was there. So in any case, one of the peaks of Todd's Felix Mendelssohn biography is how it contrasts Mendelssohn's life with his sister's. And in this book, it's really no different. I would say Felix holds less of a clear presence in this book than Fanny does in the Felix book, in the sense that he feels very much more like a side character. He's not quite ghosting the story in the way that Fanny does in the Felix Mendelssohn biography. But the two stories, again, they go hand in hand because how could they not? And you really get to spend a lot of time with Fanny's works here. I would argue that there is a bit more of an emphasis on musical analysis in the Fanny biography compared to the Felix one, which may be in part because there are less written sources about Fanny's life compared to Felix's, but I think also because there is a sense of wanting to uplift the works that she wrote and really spend more time analyzing these pieces that, for the most part, most classical music fans even are not going to have any knowledge of. So I think that that's an approach that I appreciate. And even with the title of the book kind of being a bit off-putting, I mean, literally othering Fanny Hensel by using the term the other Mendelssohn, I don't think that's the attitude that Todd takes. He is someone who is very, very aware of her influence and how much her story needs to be told. And I think he handles it with a great deal of grace and respect. And I think it's interesting that he doesn't go back on what he says in the Felix Mendelssohn biography, because I wouldn't say he's super negative to Felix in that biography, but he is also very honest about how Felix could be supportive of her and largely was, but had his limitations and could be very harsh sometimes with his critiquing, as well as his recommendations or lack thereof for the directions of her career, I suppose. So I appreciate it's a very even-handed approach is kind of my overall point. And you get a lot of good information. I think the strengths of this biography, for the most part, are the strengths of the Felix Mendelssohn biography, and I would say they are both fantastic pickups. The Fanny one is a bit harder to find for a decent price. This is one of the more expensive books that I have reviewed, at least if you're buying it new to this point. So I really hope that it gets maybe a little bit more of a wider release so that more people can really read it and really understand kind of the life of Fanny specifically. But I do think that while you could get a lot out of just the Felix Mendelssohn biography and know all you need to know about Felix and a lot of what you need to know about Fanny, I do think the two books complement each other. I think they work really well being read in tandem, and I would highly recommend both of them. And I would recommend checking out some of Fanny Hensel's work if you have not. It's a really important story, and I am glad to see that people are putting in the work to uplift it. So let us continue and show her music and herself the respect that they deserve. With that, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. As always, more reviews are to come. Tell a friend as well. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time right here at your home of the Music Deep Dive.